Want to move on to our next speaker. So up next we have Mark Martin. This is a very powerful individual. We just had a very deep conversation in the space of like 3 minutes. But I'm really looking forward to hearing what Mark has to share with us. Mark Martin, aka Urban Teacher, is an assistant professor in computer science and education practice. Mark is a thought leader in ed tech and a hugely popular speaker, sharing his expertise and insights to educators around the world. He's a teacher and advisor for the major global tech brands and continues to advocate for homegrown talent, digital skills, and education equity. In May 2022, Mark was recognized as one of the top 50 most influential people in UK IT by Computer Weekly. In 2019, he was awarded an MBE for services to education, technology, and diversity in UK technology. Please, round of applause for Mark Martin.
Thank you. Thanks, George. I think I've got a presentation, so good morning all. How's everyone doing? I'm so excited to be here because my university is 5 minutes away from here. We're in St Catherine's Docks. It's called we're now called Northeastern London. We're based in Boston, and over the last year, it's been amazing in terms of what we've been able to achieve, and I'll share more in this presentation. Nurturing creative talent in local communities. So that's going to be the gist of my presentation today, and I'm going to be sharing in terms of my 18 years of working with young people, getting them into some of the top jobs and into setting up their own businesses. How did we get to that space? And hopefully I can share that in this presentation. So again, a part of my work, apart from teaching computer science, is education practice. It's about what do we do in a classroom? How do we really engage our learners? How do we show our learners that the potential inside of them, the talent inside of them? And then you can catch me on social media. So when we think about a young person, we've got to think about the whole ecosystem. And I think many times we don't think about the ecosystem. We're just thinking about the person. And for those people that may not potentially be able to see that, there's different systems at play. So you've got the macro system that deals with attitudes, ideologies, and culture. You've got the exo system that we're probably in today around education policy, research, the neighborhood, government agencies, mass media, and local school systems. And then inside of that, in that young person's life, they've got schools, they've got home, they've got probably their faith groups, libraries, and museums, and so forth. And what I started to realize as a teacher many moons ago is that we're doing this wrong because we're not actually showing the young person the whole ecosystem. And what I started to do more and more in my practice is to say to other educators in the UK and to the DFE and to the BCS that there's so much things happening with our young people, but they don't know that next step. So if a young person's passionate about STEM, how do they go to the next step? And what I found is that alongside the skill gap, there's an awareness gap. So if a young person's got an interest in STEM, where do they go to next? And if in school, the career advice is not great, in the community, if I talk about the community, I lost all my hair in the process of talking about communities, because I'm based in Brixton, in Lambeth, and we've got one of the biggest tech companies in the world, IBM. No student knows that. And then when they're walking in Brixton, there's all of these old traditional buildings that are old startups, and there's new startups coming in. So all of this innovation is happening in the local space, but they're walking past it every day, feeling that there's a disconnect. And as I keep on showing to my colleagues is that in the lockdown, you had young people building their own NFTs, non-fungible tokens, where they were selling their digital art. You had students, 8-year-olds, building PPE equipment. And it's funny, one of my students done one where, say if you had glasses and you had your mask on it in terms of condensation, he created this clip so that when you breathe, that your glasses won't steam up. And this is the innovation that young people are bringing to me every day in schools. And again, this is probably more of a controversial one around esports, around playing computer games. So what I done is I was one of the first teachers in the country to actually set up an esports room in my school. And they were saying, well, they play esports at home, why are you bringing it into school? And I said, well, look all the soft skills they're learning. They're learning about teamwork, they're learning about collaboration, they're learning about how to deal with complex problems. Some of the games that they were playing, even myself, and I used to be a little gamer back in the day, I couldn't understand how to do that problem solving. So imagine if young people are able to transfer those skills that they're doing online to the world of work or thinking about their futures. But who's going to show them that? Who are the people that are going to be advocating for that? And as some of you are representing businesses, it's about thinking, how can we actually, get inside to these schools and work with these schools? Because it's not what I say to people is that the school visits are great. Coming into school, parachuting into school, pumping up schools for an hour, saying, hey, we're professionals, we're doing all this amazing work. It's great, but it leaves us to pick up the pieces. And if we're not intelligent, or we don't, well, when I say intelligent in terms of the job market and so forth, what happens then is that young people leave deflated that, my teachers or these people came and pumped us up for about 2 or 3 hours and they left. And then with events are great. So again, engaging that talent, events are great. We've done lots of events in the past in schools. Social media. A lot of companies think by putting it on social media, that's where young people are. You'd be surprised. A lot of our students are not on the social media in the way that you would expect. So putting up a few ads and thinking, hey, there's a workshop, there's an event happening on social media, that sometimes is a mistaken assumption to have. Work experiences are great. It's getting better over the years. So again, we're giving young people more real life experiences. So again, one big bank came to me and said, Mark, I want to work with you guys. How can I potentially work with you guys in a secondary school? I said, well, my students are great in computer science and they're great on a mobile phone. So why don't they come and work on your shop floor for 1 or 2 or 3 weeks, working with customers in the local community and so forth. Fantastic experience, because I was able then to plug students into the local community where they live, been able to part some of that knowledge that I'm teaching them in computer science, which is my dream, to customers. And then customers saying, where's these students from? And I said, from the local school. So these are the ways that I view work experience. It has to be engaging. It has to be intentional. It has to be purpose-driven. Don't get young people into workplace just to, just have a tour. They're not on a tour guide. Get them to do something. Understand their subjects that they're passionate about, and could you connect to somewhere in the workplace where you can actually build them up. Open days are great. I know IET is having an open day soon, so big shout out to the team. Again, does your company have open days where young people can come in and just see what people do in your workplace? Because a lot of students don't understand all these job titles. They probably don't even understand mine, and I'm a teacher. So how are we breaking down some of these silos in terms of job titles? Because one thing I found is that sometimes when young people see job titles, they're scared. How on earth am I going to get there? Do I need a degree? Do I need an apprenticeship? What do I need to do to get to the next level of a job title? I'm now rushing out. I've got a few more slides. So in terms of, again, engaging talent 2.0, there are some problems around living wages. Many times, a lot of businesses were not really catering for our students because that couldn't match their day-to-day living. Childcare was an issue that we found. So a lot of businesses will come to me and say, Mark, how can I really, work with young people? Have you thought about childcare? Have you thought about pastoral care? That's a big one in organizations, because sometimes when new talent comes in, the relationships break down sometimes, or young people are, as we would expect, they don't engage how sometimes we want them to engage. Is there someone in there to just phone up and say, is everything okay? Did you have a great day at work today? Or do you have a buddy at work that you can actually go to and work with? Don't just push them to the EGS team, but it was the ESG or whatever team. Get them to build these relationships internally with other people. And that's where we found retention was key. Because a lot of people would just come in and just revolve and go back out because there's no support systems in place. Realistic expectations around what are we asking that new talent to do in our organizations, and that holistic support that I showed you before. So here's some of the things that I've been thinking about in terms of 2.0 solutions around how do we do school visits, around speed dating, style, in terms of how do we get young people to mix and ask silly questions. I've worked in a private school, I've worked in academies, and I've worked in community schools. And one of the things that I found with my young people, they're really embarrassed to ask silly questions. And sometimes that's the barrier for them getting to the next stage of their journey or their career. But when I was in a private school, they ask silly questions all day long, because they know that there is something in those questions that's going to get them to the next step of that ladder. So how are we as professionals trying to engage with homegrown talent, giving them space to be themselves? Three things that our young people are looking for is to bring their identity to the workplace, a sense of belonging, and will they be heard? How trivial ever they are to be heard. I know in businesses, Mark, we've got to reach these KPIs, we've got to be driven, we've got to be X, Y, and Z. But as we've seen with the pandemic's shown us quite a lot. Young people don't need to travel into the city to get a job. They are thinking about working remotely. There's all kinds of things happening with our young people. Are we tapping into that talent pool? And then last, a few more things just to run through. Work experience, meaningful. So at the moment, I'm big on air pollution. I've got 20 students from Boston currently now as we're speaking, building this air pollution prototype that I can bring into secondary schools and primary schools so young people can start monitoring their own air pollution around their school buildings and how much air's, like toxic air is getting into the vents into the classroom. And imagine if a young person then said, I built a data analytics on that, and I sent my reading off to the mayor, and look, that's going to be fantastic on their job application or UCAS application. That's what I talk about meaningful impact. Getting young people to work on local-based problems, it goes in their CV, and then, you know, it's shining colours. And that's one of the things that I'm really big on at the moment. How do we give young people, let them use their skills that are in school to make an impact in the local area? And then I think, I'm skipping a few of these bullet points, but I want to get to some of the big kind of things before I wrap up, because I know my time's up now. Young people want to know what your business stands for and what tangible ways you're making a positive impact. So it's not just about they going to the brands now. They want to see that how are you changing this world? Sustainability, diversity, local impact. So it's not just back in the day where they think this is a big name and I'm going to work for them. How are you lot selling yourselves in the job market to this young talent pool? And then last but not least, I'll wrap up on this, diversity of talent. Diversity of talent, as I said before, is about identity. It's about perception. How do we perceive talent that comes into the workplace? A lot of people said, Mark, we're using AI. That's going to remove their names. It's going to remove everything. Just looking for keywords of what they've done in their school, whatever. But when I said to a student, are you going to be comfortable using like an AI system? They said, well, sir, if I rock up on the first day, my surname's long, they don't know how to pronounce it, and I'm, black, how are they going to perceive me then? So there's certain things that we see, like people are saying we're automating this whole talent pipeline piece. And one of the biggest blocks that I see is that companies are still not trying to build that early intervention relationship with talent. Because if you're building that early intervention relationship with talent, you don't need to be worrying about what they're going to be on the first day of their employment and so forth. And then last but not least is how we regard intellectualism and global market intellectualism. A lot of the intellectualism we talk about is either localized or tribalized. How do we appreciate that actually some of these students speak 2 or 3 languages? Some of these students are well traveled. How do we plug them into the talent pool? So I finished there. I'll finish then and let you ponder on these bullet points, but hopefully it's been a really thought-provoking presentation of how I've been able to gauge homegrown talent, how I've been able to work with some of the big organizations to engage homegrown talent too. So thank you for having me, and back over to you, George.